This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar, principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Siu. We are here in the studio, socially distanced and masked, and also by phone. We have our music director, Alain Trudel, and a very special guest. Let me bring him in. That is the violinist Timothy Chewy. Welcome, Timothy.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we always have a little fanfare when we have a special guest, so that was your fanfare. I hope you approve.
Oh, I feel special. I felt like it was a red carpet.
Fanfare for the extraordinary violinist. That's what we call that, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, we roll out the red carpet for you. Well, you are coming to the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle for a concert which is streaming live this weekend. It's Saturday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. Wonderful music here. You are performing the Violin Concerto No. 2 by Sergei Prokofiev. The program is called Russian Romantics, so there's also Stravinsky and Tchaikovsky on this concert. It's conducted by Mayan Chen. Promises to be a wonderful program. I want to talk with you, Timothy, a little bit about the Prokofiev Concerto, but before we do that, let's hear Timothy's story. This is a behind-the-scenes look, after all, so give us a little backstory. Maybe rewind all the way back to when you were about 3 years old. You started on the violin. What was that, 5 years ago? And
I wish.
Yeah, and you know, you've won a ton of awards. Now you're on Toledo Symphony Lab, which I know is the highlight of your career so far. But let's go back, and let me bring in a little bit of music for you. This is perfect for a 3-year-old. Okay. Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, there we go. Take it away, Timothy.
All right, so yeah, I started playing, well, I'm originally from Canada, and I started playing the violin when I was 3 years old, very much inspired by my brother. Yeah, I just remember when he was, he's 5 years older than me, and when I was born, I think I was constantly just taking whatever looked like two sticks and pretending and sawing away like I was playing the violin. And so then my parents saw that, and they said, oh, maybe we should let him start playing the violin as well. And that's the last thing I remembered in terms of how I ended up to now to today. Well, a lot of things have happened since, but that was really the fire that started, and it's just been one direction ever since then.
Wait a second, you rubbed two sticks together and created fire?
I know, he's going to go along with this here.
Wow.
What a Boy Scout.
That's pretty amazing. Amazing.
Can you match that one, Brad?
Yeah. So your brother is also a violinist, right?
Yes, he is also a violinist.
Okay. Were you guys, I know you guys drew cartoons together when you grew up. Did you practice together, or did you, like, face off? Was there competition going on there?
Yeah, so we drew cartoons a lot together. Do we practice together? Not like practice together at the same time. We would play for each other, and we did that a lot when we were younger, and we played together. But then life with him got busy, and then he went to high school and all of that stuff. So we didn't have so much time to do that anymore. But we did have a little bit of a second coming again. And that was when we both were in Philadelphia studying at the Curtis Institute of Music, and we were both, he was just about to graduate. He had one more year left, and I had just entered because I came in a year earlier. And we did play a lot together, and that's actually when we first started playing together professionally as well. And going forward, we play a lot, before COVID, we played a lot together and had a lot of interesting programs, and yeah, and we also did still play for each other, but yeah, not really practice together.
Yeah. Well, I imagine that would be difficult to practice together, but I just meant, play together, basically.
I'm imagining a scene, where anything you can play, I can play better, and then you face off after trying to outperform each other.
Yeah.
You know what? maybe we didn't have that same attitude. I think it was more like revealing of each other, like, because usually when we're performing for our teachers and in front of audiences, we're pretending, or no, we're not pretending, we're playing our best, but we could let loose and actually show how we actually approach a certain passage, and it was actually quite a fail most of the time.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, speaking of letting loose a little bit, I want to talk about your social media presence, because I've had a great deal of fun going through your Instagram account, through your TikTok account. I mean, you've got 20,000 followers on Instagram, 36,000 followers on TikTok. You're sort of a classical music social influencer, you know, which Lord knows we need more of those. We need a lot of those.
I'm over here thinking, that's a thing?
Yeah.
Did you just create
That's
that?
right. He's like, what's TikTok? Right? So, but let me ask you how you got started on all that, and what's the secret to your success? I mean, you've had some viral videos out there. What goes into all that?
Yeah. So how did I get started, first of all? Well, I mean, I had all these social media apps because all my other friends had it to begin with, so I would feel left out if I didn't have one of them. And Instagram was definitely the thing when I was, going to college. TikTok I think it's actually for a little bit of a younger age demographic than I am. It's probably people that are just entering college now. And but a lot of my friends have gone on there as well, and I wanted to check it out. And I thought it was really cool. I thought, I always liked video over photos anyways. And just started, it was very much more like a snapshot of my life at first, but then I saw a lot of the potential of building an audience online. And I knew that there was a lot of people that were just mindlessly scrolling, and if I could get their attention with something to do with classical music, I really think that was a new approach to how we can sustain classical music into the younger generation.
Yeah.
So that was like it didn't come like that naturally at first, but I did see that there were some other really interesting people that started to get people to like about certain ethnic foods, for example, and maybe some would never have thought about that at first, but because of that and the way they presented it was so engaging and so interesting and eye-catching, that's how it all just, became the most exciting thing ever. So how did I continue to build that? Well, I kind of just analyzed what was going on, and there are a lot of trends that go on these apps, and I tried to make my own twist, my own creative twist with the violin with each of my videos and each of my posts. So one of the more recent ones that actually went pretty viral was when I compared what people thought was hard on the violin and what's actually really hard on the violin, because oftentimes we play, like something like a tune, like something for Vivaldi's Four Seasons, not to say it's not hard, but they think that's like so much harder than something than, the Prokofiev Second Violin Concerto.
Right.
And so I just did that, and I think that was very shareable. But that trend has been going on with other things before. Some cook did it with like, what people think is hard was like this panna cotta, and what's actually hard was this fancy gastronomy duck thing that didn't look that hard to make with. But so I kind of just take to see what was going on and use violin, what I do.
Yeah.
Did you do any sea shanties?
Any sea shanties?
Sorry?
Did you do any sea shanties?
No, not
No,
yet.
not that trend.
That would be a great idea, though, Merwin.
Yeah. But one of the videos that you have on there that I love is where you compare, like, a cheap violin to your Stradivarius,
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's educational, but it's also entertaining. And a lot of folks, they hear about the Strad, and they know it's supposed to be so great, but at least you're demonstrating, right, for your audience.
Exactly.
One of my other favorite videos is where you do animal sounds on your violin, which is great. And I prepared a violin animal sound for you. This is actually a wolf. Well, not really a wolf here. Okay. I found that in our sound effects library.
Yeah.
Yes. The wolf whistle. So every time you say something brilliant, Timothy, I'm going to bring this in just so you know.
I didn't know wolves could whistle.
Yeah.
I had to figure out how to do that.
No, it's a violin imitating a wolf whistling.
How do we know it's not a wolf imitating a violin?
Well,
You hear them all the time in Canada.
Yes.
it's a Canadian violin. Speaking of which, let's bring in Elaine because Timothy, you are Canadian by birth. Merwin here is also Canadian, and Elaine obviously is Canadian. Elaine, you and
I have heard
Timothy,
of Canada.
and
Yeah.
yes,
Oh.
and we both
Wow.
we both live in a country that adjoins with Canada. So Elaine, now you've worked with Timothy in the past, right?
Yes, of course. We worked with the National Symphony, the National Arts Center in Ottawa together,
Yeah.
and in Victoria as well. So, yeah, I'm well aware of his artistry. I think we're very lucky to have him with us this week. And what's interesting is that Timothy is one of those rare violinists that you can talk to as if you're talking to how could I say?
A wolf?
Merwin, I wouldn't go that far. Still a violinist.
Okay.
No, but seriously, like when you talk to somebody in a bandstand or a jazz player and you call tunes and you say, well, what about that tune? They say, yeah, sure. So I talked to Timothy and I say, hey, Prokofiev tune. And he said, no, I'll start from now. Oh, yeah, sure, I'll play it. And I discover after, of course, he's preparing it just for us. So, and it's funny because he will probably tell you the story. He has this story, the same story I had with Sibelius Violin Concerto, that I was supposed to do it many times, many seasons. It always wind up being the piece on the program that was pushed out for whatever reason. And finally, when it was, it came out of the blue, and then finally it happened. So I think it's a little bit, you can tell me, Timothy, if I'm wrong, but it's kind of something a little bit like that's happening here.
Yeah, exactly. So Alain called me and said, "Hey, Timmy, we're programming the Prokofiev second." So I said, "Oh, okay." I've always wanted to play this piece, and I did read through it actually earlier when the pandemic started. So the universe was hearing what I was supposed to do later on. But I actually learned this in the past couple of weeks just for this, and I'm really excited because I think this piece is so interesting and. It's so different than all the other types of repertoire that I'm so used to playing. So, I mean, for the longest, the other Russian repertoire that I play was Tchaikovsky, Shostakovich, which have a similar approach, I guess, to Prokofiev in some ways, especially Shostakovich more so. But Prokofiev just has this, it really does feel like Peter and the Wolf, but on the violin. A little bit more aggressive, like Peter and... Yeah.
I promise not to pull that out again.
Okay.
It really is an amazing concerto. I mean, I can't get that second movement out of my head. That beautiful part. But it's also, it begins, with the solo violin. It ends with that kind of off-kilter motu perpetual stuff. I mean, what was the big challenge for you, Timothy, in learning this concerto to bring to Toledo?
This concerto is it's a hard one, technically, to begin with. And Prokofiev was a really creative composer and was someone that I think we look up to in the sense that he never repeated anything twice, really.
Yeah.
And even note-wise, there's a section, many sections. There's sometimes when it should repeat. There's like maybe one note that's different, and it just messes you up. But I think just getting that all sorted and then finding the style, because Prokofiev was very much was a composer that was inspired by the style of the classical period. So the neoclassical period is what they call his music in. And even though the harmonies are completely way off in the sense that they've expanded way beyond Mozart, the form and the structure and the style and the concept is very, very similar to what Mozart had been writing. So trying to understand that and kind of just part the dust away and finding that kind of symmetrical structure within all of this craziness of harmonies has been, for me, the most challenging part.
Yeah. So when are we going to see your Prokofiev practice videos on TikTok?
You know, I actually made a practice with me. Watch me practice. I don't know how many will actually watch me practice. It's an hour long and it's going to be on YouTube this Wednesday.
Oh,
That's great.
nice.
Well, you got 3 people watching. That's for
we'll
sure.
Check,
Yeah.
We'll check that out.
So, Timothy, I'd love to know, you said you started looking at this at the beginning of the pandemic. Was this a piece that you wanted to kind of get into your fingertips, or was this something that felt appropriate to the pandemic time? I'd just love to know why this piece.
Yeah, a little bit of both, I would say. Probably the second one was more unconscious, but definitely it was something that I wanted to add to my repertoire. I had learned all the major violin concertos by then, and I had learned Prokofiev 1. Prokofiev 2 was one that I just never had the time to really look at. So it was hard to get the music as well. But I found it eventually and just read it through. I just read it through and I heard it for the first time a while back. So for me, I just think I need to add this to repertoire. It's great. It's also a great length of a concerto because it's not too long and it's not too big in terms of orchestral size, but it sounds big.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful work. We were talking earlier today, trying to figure out what adjective we ascribe to this concerto, because it functions on so many different planes. And Brad, what was your answer?
I forget.
Okay, Merwin, what was your answer?
I think I used the word brooding.
Brooding, right?
Brooding. Yeah. I said it was uncategorizable or something like that.
And I think mine was chilly.
Yeah.
What would you say, given your engagement now? What words are coming to your mind as you think about this concerto, Timothy?
Yeah, I have 2 words that I feel like I can describe it with. That would be very fairy tale like, and then grotesque at the same time.
Wow.
Fairy tale like is like 2 or 3 words though.
Yeah.
No, there are hyphens in between.
That's
It's interesting, though. I mean, this says a lot about this concerto. Is that I say it's chilly. You say it's fairy tale like. I think both of those are true. Brooding and grotesque are also very different. And I think this this definitely speaks to the depth of what Prokofiev created with this piece.
I would consider it to be a little ethereal, and that kind of speaks to what all of you are saying, that it kind of transcends expectations, it keeps you on your toes.
Just like this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Just like Toledo Symphony Lab. I want to change gears here momentarily and bring in our quiz. Now, the fact that we have a Canadian quorum here with Merwin and with Timothy and with Elaine led me to formulate a quiz which I'm calling the Blame Canada quiz. Okay. Now this is a multiple choice quiz. The way it works,
I thought it was
multiple
about
choice.
South Park.
Right. Well, it might be.
I'm going to give you 3 different items. You tell me which of them were invented by Canadians. Okay.
Okay.
And just a fair warning, it could be all of the above or it could be none of the above, right? So let me bring in a little music. I figure since we're having a quiz about inventions, we'll have a little Bach invention music behind us.
This is so funny because,
Okay.
are these 2-part questions or 3-part questions?
I didn't find any 3-part ones that I liked, so we're going with 2-part inventions. Okay. Even though they're 3 multiple choice. All right, question number 1. I'm going to give you these 3 items. You tell me which one was invented by Canadians. Was it the coffee maker? Was it canola oil? Or was it the electric blender? Go ahead and just shout out a guess.
Canola oil.
Wow.
It's like you guys were intense.
That was a tie between
That was almost a jinx.
Zach and Tim. No, okay, next one. Garbage bags, the garbage disposal unit, or the garbage truck?
Well, if it was a Zamboni, it would have been a Canadian. But I'm not sure about the truck.
What'd you guess?
Garbage truck.
Nope, not garbage truck.
I'll go with garbage bags then.
Yeah.
Oh.
And Merwin
Wait, how
is...
does that just become an invention? I feel like at some point somebody just said, well, let's put it in this thing.
Well, these are commercial inventions. So,
Okay, I see. So
a garbage
copyrightable,
bag.
design,
Yeah.
trademark, I see.
It's really a 2-part process.
Ba-dum-bum. I have a rim shot there, but I'm too lazy to reach for it. Okay. Okay. Here's your next set of items. Apple butter, peanut butter, or Cool Whip?
Cool Whip.
No.
Apple butter.
So in unison, do we do this in unison? Okay.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter. Yeah, in 1884. Peanut butter was actually invented and marketed in Canada. Apple butter has been around since the Middle Ages, but the Macintosh Red Apple was developed in Canada. And Cool Whip came out in the 1960s. Same guy who invented Pop Rocks and Jell-O. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
That's
Kind
what I
of
had
fits
for
somehow. It kind of fits.
Don't never mix those three together. Okay. Here's your next group. This is an eclectic group here. Was it the can opener? Was it toilet paper? Or the electric wheelchair?
That sounds like an all of the above thing.
Yeah.
No, not all of the above.
Wow, I was so sure. It just sounded like a Brad Cresswell all of the above
No.
delivery.
I'm going to go for the electric wheelchair.
Yeah, Zach got it. Electric wheelchair in 1952. They also invented the
It could
wheelchair.
also open cans, by the way.
Yes. The wheelchair accessible bus was also invented by a Canadian. But here's the weird thing, like the can opener. The can opener was invented in 1858, but cans came out in 1808. So they had cans.
Without a means to open them.
I guess people were using
used
hammers.
An axe.
Rock.
Yeah. Finally, somebody got around to inventing a can opener.
I love how
So-
it took 50 years, though. It's like, how many
Yeah.
failed attempts were in there?
Yeah, I don't know. All right, your next one. Baggage check, like where you go check your bags, baggage check. The snowmobile or Canada Dry Ginger Ale. Which of those?
Well, snowmobile for sure. Maybe all 3.
That goes to Alain. Yeah, all 3.
Baggage check.
Baggage check.
Is
In
that a good... Should they be proud of that?
Well, 1882.
Yeah.
So it
If
had
they
to...
lose your baggage in Canada, it's going to be a very long wait to get it back. There's not so many cities, right?
Yeah. Okay.
True.
Let me bring up our music again. There we go. Okay, the artificial heart, the pacemaker, or the asthma inhaler. Which of those was invented by Canadians?
Pacemaker?
That's right. Elaine got that one. They also invented insulin in the 1920s. Okay, here's a good one for you. Was it hockey, lacrosse, or basketball?
All 3.
Basketball.
All 3.
All three.
Oh no, Elaine, you changed it.
Oh,
Oh
sorry.
no, you're right. Yeah, basketball was the only one actually invented by Canadians.
Lacrosse
Oh,
wasn't invented in Canada?
Well, I mean, it was played by Native Americans in Canada and America,
Ah, okay.
and before Canada was really Canada. Hockey was played in Britain in the 18th century. Charles Darwin was a hockey player, by the
Oh,
way.
wow.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Basketball, I knew, yeah.
So basketball. I'll give that to you, Elaine.
Oh,
Okay.
You're too sweet.
Yeah. Elaine is ahead, actually. Okay, the lava lamp, the crock pot, or the vacuum cleaner? Or all of the above or none of the above?
Crock pot.
Vacuum cleaner.
Lava Lantis.
None of the above.
Wow.
How could we live in a household without one of those great inventions?
Yeah. The vacuum cleaner, I was fascinated to discover this, was first invented in 1901. They used a horse-drawn carriage to move a giant gasoline motor down the street, and then they would use scaffolds to get the tube up into your house. So they would create this huge mess outside
Yeah.
to clean the inside of somebody's house.
Wow, that really sucks.
That's amazing. Yeah. All right. Good one. And the last one, the Ebola vaccine, easy off oven cleaner, or the egg carton.
The egg carton. I'm going to go with that.
That's kind of right.
It's all of the above.
All of them.
All of the above. Yes, indeed. Okay, let's total them up here. Zach has
I
3.
got 3.
Timothy has 1. Merwin has 1. Elaine has 3. Do we really have a
Ooh.
tie?
It's sudden death. Overtime. Sudden death. Overtime. Sorry.
Overtime. Yeah. Actually-
I say we have to give it to them both, right?
oh no, I'll gladly
give it to
see.
our guest.
I'll gladly see it.
Guys,
Ah,
what's up, guys?
there we go.
I'll gladly see to
My
Elaine, and he
number seven,
can.
give it to our guest.
That's right. And then he says to give it to Timothy. So Timothy is this week's winner.
Okay, we'll give it to Timothy.
Not only does he get to win the
I always-
concerto, but he also gets to win the trivia quiz.
Oh.
And that's what concertos are all about.
Okay, let's hear from you, Merwin, a little bit about the other works on this
Sure.
concert and how it all falls under the umbrella of the Russian Romantics.
Well, it's really interesting because I think that there's kind of there's a quite an interesting connection between Prokofiev and Stravinsky, and that's the violinist Samuel Dushkin. And this was actually Dushkin was kind of Stravinsky's favorite violinist. He actually toured on a recital tour with Stravinsky and came to Toledo and performed. And the Prokofiev's second violin concerto was written with Dushkin and Dushkin's duet partner in mind, and it's a really fascinating connection. The Stravinsky suite for small orchestra, it's really neat because each movement feels almost like a vignette or a cartoon a little bit. He had for some of these movements specific people in mind that he was gently satirizing or making fun of a little bit, and you can kind of, each one of these is a little bit of a celebrity sketch, and so it's kind of fascinating to hear that element of it. And then of course beginning with the Tchaikovsky Serenade for Strings, it's a melody. I mean, the waltz melody in particular is something that I love very, very much. It's something that I sang to my kids to, every night, for many, many years. So
Wow.
it's something that personally just has has an interesting place in my heart for that.
You ever play your violin for your kids?
No, I want them to go to sleep. I don't want them to cry, to scream, to throw tomatoes,
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no. We need calmness.
Good to
the
know.
Tchaikovsky Serenade, though, was one of my favorites growing up. I had this recording of both the Dvorak and the Tchaikovsky. So if you look at the concert we did a couple weeks ago and then this one, I'm kind of in heaven from, Zach as a 14-year-old. But the opening of the Tchaikovsky Serenade is so gripping. I just can't stop fast enough to focus on it whenever I hear it. You might play it on the radio, Brad, and I can't not hear it. But the whole thing is just so lyrical, and that waltz is
The
amazing.
waltz is
Yeah.
special for me.
Yeah.
Well, it's a beautiful program, and one thing we haven't mentioned yet is the conductor Mayan Chen. Have you done any work with Mayan in the past, Timothy?
No, I have not, but we connected on Facebook recently just to greet ourselves.
Yeah. Well, nice. She's a wonderful conductor,
Yeah,
and
she's been here a couple times.
She has
Yeah.
she has quite the history with us, actually. I think, and I don't want to. So there is a small possibility I'm wrong about this, but I believe that we're, if not the very first professional orchestra she appeared with,
Really?
one of the very first.
Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
so she has a long history with us. She did a Halloween concert with us, some runouts, some neighborhood concerts, and she's done a few masterworks with us.
She did an all-French concert that
French
I
program
just
with-
loved.
Oh yeah, with the Ravel
Ravel,
left hand,
yeah.
and then she did Nielsen's Fourth with
Oh
us.
yes, I remember
last-
that.
Yeah, that was a really cool program too.
It was like it was inextinguishable.
And she's had a great deal of success in Chicago.
Certainly,
obviously.
Chicago Sinfonietta.
Yeah. Well, the concert is happening this weekend. It is streaming live on Saturday at 8 o'clock p.m. You can find that at stream.artstoledo.com. Our guest, violinist Timothy Chewy, performing the second violin concerto by Sergei Prokofiev, also Igor Stravinsky's second suite, and Pyotr Tchaikovsky's Serenade for Strings, Mayan Chen at the podium. More information at ToledoSymphony.com, or again, as I mentioned, stream.artstoledo.com. Timothy, I want to thank you for making the time to talk with us, and we are so looking forward to your premiere performance of the Prokofiev Second Violin Concerto, and also performing with the Toledo Symphony.
Yes, looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on here today.
Thank you.
This program is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony, with generous support from the Rita Barber Kern Foundation. You can download episodes of our program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab. You can also subscribe to us through your podcast app of choice, including Apple and Google Podcasts. And remember to check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website at toledosymphony.com and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can find the TSO's streaming concerts, all of them available online at stream.artstoledo.com. My thanks to Zach Vassar, Merwin Siu, Elaine Trudell, and our guest violinist, Timothy Chewy. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab from FM 91.